I think the conversation is over as far as who the best prospect in the 2026 NFL draft is. Prior to the college football playoff quarterfinal, I planted my flag on Rueben Bain Jr. being my number one prospect in this draft class, and his performance against the Ohio State Buckeyes confirmed that. Bain finished the Cotton Bowl with 6 pressures, 1 sack, and a pair of defensive stops, looking almost unblockable at times against the Buckeyes. That performance came at the perfect time for Bain, with early buzz coming out about concerns regarding his arm length and whether or not he would have to kick inside to defensive tackle at the NFL level. Bain has quieted those concerns, at least for a little bit, with that performance against Ohio State. So let's dive into the film from that college football playoff performance to show you why I really think Bain is the best prospect in this draft class in today's episode of Best Available. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube if you're not already, and follow us on socials at Best Available YT. If you are a huge fan of the NFL draft and looking for my full big board access, consider becoming a member. I'll leave details to that in the episode description. But for now, let's dive into the Rueben Bain film, because he whipped Ohio State in this game pretty bad. I can't imagine the prep work that goes into game planning against a guy like Rueben Bain, number 4 off the edge for Miami. Such a dense, powerful frame at 6'3" and 275 pounds. And yes, there are some concerns about his arm length. He has sub 31-inch arms, which is quite bad for an edge, frankly, especially when you're worried about tools and things of that nature. Typically, you're looking around 34 inches. So I can appreciate why people are concerned about the arm length. However, when you turn on the tape, and I think Brett Coleman said this best, yes, but have you considered that Rueben Bain also has rabies? Because this man plays with his hair on fire. And I think as far as getting a feel for his frame and how powerful he is, this is a great play to show that. He's going to get chipped here by this tight end. And you're going to notice maybe a less dense edge or pass rusher in a situation of this might get thrown off balance. But when you watch Bain here, just kind of effortlessly just uses that chip momentum, and he's barely thrown off guard, slants inside, swims over, and then gets right to the quarterback. Now, it's also a nice rush from Akeem Mesidor, another solid guy that's going to be an NFL prospect in his own right. But I just appreciate, how hard it is to displace Bain, the fact that he doesn't lose his balance here, and then just easily gets around this guard, and then just meets Mesidor in the backfield to sack Julian Sayin early in this game. That's just the kind of example. You can try and chip Bain, but unless you're really, really, really committing to it to delay your release as a route runner, especially as a tight end, you're not going to have much luck getting him off balance. This is the part of Bain's game where I get really frustrated when people try to knock him as a prospect, because you got to stop the run too as an edge rusher. And I feel like that gets overlooked, especially for the top tier prospects when you're looking for a guy that can be an every down player. And boy, do I think Bain can be one of those. We've got him right here lined up on the other side of the field. And he's just going to play his gap to a T here. So he is going to slant over, or not even slant. He's just going to take outside contain on this tackle, and he is going to refuse to cut inside. We can feel the outside zone. We can see the width that this running back is taking on this handoff. And he's just saying, listen, I know that you're faster than me and trying to hook around here, but I'm just going to keep using my strength and power to try and keep outside contain here and force this running back to cut inside instead, where I know I have teammates waiting for me. So he is hell-bent on keeping that outside contain. And you just notice, because he is so damn strong, he is just going to carry this tackle all the way, backwards, because he's just that lower body strength. You can see how thick his legs are. That lower body strength, he just starts carrying the tackle backwards. And at that point, he just runs into the running back. And then the leg drive to start pushing that backwards while getting blocked. It's such a rare trait for an edge. And yes, I can see why people are like, maybe he should play D-tackle, because he has this kind of play strength when engaged with a blocker. But as an edge, when you're this disciplined against the run and can be this effective in holding your gap, that's a value in and of itself. I don't care about the arm length here. You can see he's not even able to get extended against this blocker, but through sheer force of will, he is just riding that block, all the way across the field to the point where he's just meeting the ball carrier. That force and tackling power to, start driving him backwards is just genuinely impressive. Something else that really stands out for me with Rueben Bain is his, not just play strength, but his hand usage as a pass rusher. This is a guy that does a nice job of hand fighting and creating, limiting that extension that tackles have. And when we talked about arm length, if you're not able to just win with extension and length, especially as a bull rusher or anything like that, you're gonna need to close the space between you and this tackle. Otherwise, most tacklers are gonna have the length advantage and just kind of lock you up if they get extended. So Bain negates that with really good hand usage to disengage, force the issue, get into the chest of tackles, and then either get around them one way or the other or through them with functional strength. So we're gonna see a good example of that hand usage here on, I believe it's Austin Searvald. I don't know how to pronounce the left tackle's name, but I know he is also an NFL prospect in his own right. So instead of going for the tackle here, he's going to actually jab inside and go after the guard, but we are still going to see that hand usage here. So he's going to force the issue inside. He is meeting the hands of that strike of that guard, and as soon as that guard tries to make contact, he is just ripping over. I like that feign inside move. I'll rewind that for you. Feign inside, use those arms to rip the guard off of you, and then get into the pocket where you meet Julian Sain in the backfield. I love that he can, work inside and out. I like that he's waiting until that punch to feign inside, and then the guard is going to try to recover and reset his hands, but then he's just going to swing back out. Like, this is a guy, again, you're going to keep hearing that lack of length, but he has so many counter moves and hand usage and just knows how to set up blockers that I really don't think it matters as much as people are thinking it's going to be. It's going to be a huge narrative about his arm length for months. You're never going to stop hearing about it because he is so talented. I really don't think it should hurt his draft stock because he knows how to play with those limitations and succeed. Another thing I really appreciate with Bain, pressures aren't always going to look pretty. Not everything has to be a highlight-worthy pass rush to generate a pressure, and this is going to be a good example of that. He's just going to rush off the edge. He's not going to win that hand battle. You can see he was trying to disengage, but this is what we don't want for an edge with limited arm length, is these hands have locked him up, right? So he's not really going to win much of a hand battle, so instead he just goes, okay, bet. I'm just going to run through you and collapse the pocket. Hilarious way to generate pressure. Clearly just completely lost the hand fighting battle, and that's going to happen sometimes. But just to use his functional strength after, the swipe did not work, he is locked up. He is just going to run through that tackle into the lap of the quarterback. Ridiculous functional strength. Another reason why, again, some teams might view him as a defensive tackle, but that kind of power off the edge to still generate a bull rush from an ugly, ugly angle is genuinely impressive. It's something that, it's not going to show up in the stat sheet. People aren't going to, take a long look at it on the YouTube highlights. But on channels like this one, we're going to say, he's pretty damn strong. When we talked about Micah Parsons earlier this season, one of the big things we kept coming back to was pass rush gravity. And what I mean by that is just offensive linemen are so worried about what you're going to do, they can forget that other guys can rush too. And this is a great example of that. Bain is just going to rush inside, and he's going to draw so much attention. We actually have a defensive back that's rushing off the edge here that you cannot see on the screen right now. But I want you to watch how these guys react to Bain's rush and how they leave that other guy unblocked. So we're going to run it here. They get so worried. His eyes are so focused on this guy. He's going to be too late to this blitz off the edge because they are just so worried about Bain. And by the time he realizes that rush is coming off the edge, this tackle is just like, oh crap, we left him completely, completely unblocked, and it leads to a huge sack and a big moment for the Hurricanes. Just pass rush gravity is another thing I want to look at with my top edge rushers. It's clear Ohio State, even early in the game, they were moving their protections and sliding them towards this guy because they were like, we just need to block him however possible. But he's still having an impact on a play like this where he's just rushing inside and completely throws this line off on what to do, and it leads to a huge play for Miami's defense. We're going to talk about the hand usage again. I just love how easily this man can disengage from blockers. Again, he's going to need to at the next level, and we've got it right here. He's going to bend around a little bit. He sees those hands coming, and he's just going to swipe them away. Violent hands to disengage. It's a quick pass set. I think they know a pressure is going to probably come from Bain. They got to get that ball out quickly, but I just love how quickly he bends around and fights off those hands to swipe and get a competent future NFL tackle off balance like that. Is just, we're not talking enough about how good the hand usage is to negate the arm length, and I'm going to keep talking about it because I just think it's that important. I'll show it one more time just because I'm blown away by it. Just that little step, the footwork combined with the hand swipe to just get pressure immediately in Sain's face. Just very impressive. We did another video on Bain earlier this season, I think after the Notre Dame game, because I was just immediately like, this guy's going to be a dude, very clearly a top draft prospect. And he pulled out the Reggie White hump move, and he tried it again here. It's one of those set up outside and then use your strength and your inside hand and just push this guy down here and then get inside. He works it right here. Look at that extension. I know he's not that long, but to pull that off, to throw that guy back on a longer pass that he's probably getting closer to the quarterback. It's a nice job by Sain to step up in the pocket. I think he is in big trouble if he does not step up here. But this is an awfully nice hump move. I know it doesn't result in a direct pressure, but I wanted to show it just because Bain does have the ability to pull that one off, especially when tackles start worrying about his bend around to the edge and start oversetting backwards. When they're on their heels, he can throw that hump move at them and get inside to those oversetting tackles. One more time, I'm a Packers fan. I'm going to show you a hump move. Just, it is effective. The guard's ready to help out when needed, and Sain steps up. Like, you can tell Bain's presence is just always on the mind of Ohio State's offensive line because he is just threat number one on this defense. I think some context is important for the last few rushes because they kept talking about how this edge rush duo of Mesidor and Bain was getting gassed in this game. And it did not really seem to phase Bain once he was able to get back on the field. Like, this was a guy that was emptying the tank against the Buckeyes, and that's exactly what I want to see from a top prospect. Yeah, we might have some concerns about stamina right now, but if you're willing to push through those, that tells me a lot about the kind of player and how you're wired mentally. Like, I'm very impressed by this kind of stuff. So again, this is a guy that was just being talked about how gassed he was on the broadcast. And here he is just dipping and bending around the edge. Ridiculous bend for a guy of his size. I will never get enough of that. Like, Bain is such a unique body type and so thick and dense. You do not expect him to be able to bend around the edge like this. The wide alignment certainly helps, but just the way he swipes again and then he rips underneath that block to the point where this tackle is just lunging, trying to get something done. And here we are getting, almost another sack on Sain. He does a nice job of escaping it, but the pressure itself is awfully impressive and leads to a throwaway. That hand fighting keeps showing up along with that play strength. It is a dangerous combination from Bain. So when we go here, we get that exit motion. He swipes and misses, and what I like is just because he swiped down at that one point and whiffed doesn't mean he's going to stop hand fighting. Look at here how he's grabbing those wrists. Another really effective way to get a guy off you. Wrists, elbows are weak points, right? When disengaging as a defender. And those points specifically because they bend, right? Like, these are malleable objects. You're not going to really do much at a forearm, right? That's not going to bend much. But if you can get an elbow or a wrist to disengage, these are malleable, bendable body parts that you can manipulate. And Bain does a really nice job of that. You can see he throws that wrist down. Suddenly you've only got one arm on you. And then he's just going to try and rip through. And, then at that point, it turns into another strength game where he's just going to use his power once he has, disengaged at least one arm right here. And then he's just going to use that leg drive and lower body strength to just kind of like carry himself into the lap of the quarterback. And God, look at how exhausted the tackle is afterwards. This guy is like, this guy needs an oxygen tank after the end of this rep. He's just completely gassed from having to block Bain so many times. It is just that kind of day for this Ohio State offensive line. But I just love the fact that he can not just disengage, but even when it looks like, it's just functionally not going to work for him, he's just so powerful from awkward angles. He can continue to generate push. Bain's alignment is so wide on this one, I had to show the sideline angle instead. And I apologize, it's a little hard to see off the get-go because of that logo and the white jersey, but I assure you he is right here. So keep your eyes on it and I'll get it playing. We're going to go from that wide alignment and just show you his get off, great explosion off the snap, timed up the snap really well, gets an edge, and just the ability to just I know he just trips up sand, but the ability to get low, sink underneath, maybe he loses his balance a little bit there. But the fact that he's able to dip and bend around at that size and still get a hand on Saint's foot and cause him to rush his process, uh, I just love how his low center of gravity is just so impressive. And I think they finally get a holding call here. Like they were holding Bain a lot this game. I think if someone's at least able to draw one on this play, but I just wanted to show that bend because he does some stuff that just kind of defies logic to me for a pass rusher. Just look how quickly he's off and forward lean, exploding. He's already getting ground as that ball snapped. And then just to bend around that edge from such a wide alignment for such a big guy is just, it's ridiculous, man. Last one, again, a wide alignment. This is near the end of the game. Again, he is emptying the tank in this game. And we're going to go and we're going to show off that speed, explosion off the snap, bend again, and just the rip under to try and use that gravity to stay low and tighten that corner. I think he gets held here. I think that's pretty obvious. These refs swallowed their whistle a lot in this game. They've been letting him play kind of throughout the playoff. So not too surprised by that. Just I think that explains a little more why he's not able to finish this pressure. But the get off here, that burst, and then ripping under, tightening that angle, all of that's awfully, awfully impressive. I don't care about the arm length with this guy. This is a one-of-one talent and such a unique body type that I really do think he's going to have an impact as a 3-down player at the next level. And clearly he's wired the right way. I think that's my biggest takeaway from this game, especially when watching on the broadcast. You can see on the sidelines when Bain's just gasping for breath, trying to lock in and fight through fatigue. And clearly he did. Like, he's making such impactful plays while clearly exhausted. That's the kind of way I want my player wired at the NFL level. So you can complain about the arm length. You can say maybe he's a little too big to be an edge. I don't care. I think he can rush the passer effectively. He's got bend. He's got play strength. He has already some really damn good hand usage to disengage. And he's an effective player against the run. I didn't show some of the plays. I think there's maybe some discipline against the run because he's so eager to make splash plays. But I believe he's coachable enough to fix those issues, especially in a certain scheme. I love this kid. I think he is the best player in this draft class, and I'm not as worried about the arm length when you play with this kind of motor and competitive fire. Let me know what you think about Bain. This is the second video we've done on him on the channel. I just continue to be impressed by his level of play. So let me know in the comments what you think about him, where he will go, who you want to see him drafted by. And then we'll be back next week. College football playoffs are electric, but we're going to keep an eye on any of these Week 18 NFL games, see if there's anything noteworthy that comes out of those. But thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year, and we'll see you on Monday.